Hey guys, Andy here from Mediocre Hobbies coming at you with tanks. Sorry for the odd angle for which I'm recording this intro and probably the outro as well. It's very difficult to try and get all this into focus and into frame and then also have me in focus and in frame. So you'll have to do it at the top of my head. As you know, it's luscious locks up there anyway, so you can just picture that as we go along. As you can see, this is my Krieg tank collection so far. I actually still have some in boxes and a few other bits lying around that need to be built and painted, but for the most part, this is my collection of tanks. Some of the keen-eyed people out there will have noticed that my Krieg army, Krieg tank force, consists of majority Forge World tanks. So I use this army, my Krieg, because it is a Forge World army, to purchase and include all of the Forge World tanks that I can get my hands on and add them into this force. I've been doing it for a couple of years now, and my collection has grown and grown and grown to some of my favorite tank pieces that I've ever had. And I plan on continuing to do that with as many extra Forge World tanks as I can get my hand on. Slowly but surely, they are being taken off the sale. Now, with some of them, the Macarius are being taken off and they're being swapped over to plastic ones, which is great. But the collector side of me really wants to get the resin ones just to complete kind of the collection. So that's going to be a painful journey for me. Now, people have been asking to see my entire Krieg army in a showcase, and I don't want to do it until I have everything that I currently have for that army painted. So as you can see, there's even a couple of tanks in here right now. Actually 5 tanks on this shelf right now, on this table right now, that aren't painted. There's a bunch of infantry and some extra bits and pieces there that also need to be painted. So I want to get all of that done just so I can show it off in its kind of completed state, or at least its current completed state. So that's what I'm doing now. And today's video, that's what I'm going to focus on. I'm going to get another awesome tank, the Macarius Inferno, the giant flamethrower tank. And I'm going to get that built and painted in today's video to move closer and closer to that awesome showcase that you guys have been hounding me for a couple of years now. So hopefully you guys will stick around, enjoy this video, enjoy me building and painting this quite interesting tank, and then go from there. Before I get into it, I just want to say huge thank yous to all of my patrons. Without you guys, I would not be able to continue doing what I am doing. So thank you guys so much. If you're interested in getting involved in that, check out the links below. It'll take you straight to the Patreon website where you can see all the different tiers and all the different benefits that you can get. Primarily access to a private Discord server and an extra vlog style video from me every single day, kind of topping you guys up with what's going on in my hobby, what videos I'm making. And in that comment section, you guys can kind of change what videos I make or sway or do anything like that. So it's a pretty useful thing. Final note on that is the free tier I wish didn't exist. If you subscribe to the free tier, there's absolutely no benefit, no reason for that. So the bare minimum is €3.30. You get full access to all the benefits. So I think that's pretty cool. All right, without further ado, guys, let's jump in and get this tank painted. Okay guys, I've shown you how to paint my Krieg paint style a million times before, so I'm not going to show you that again. I'm literally going to talk to you a little bit about Forge World tanks and my obsession with collecting them and wanting to feed as many of them as I can into my Krieg army. So I've had this concept running for quite a while now, which is I really do enjoy Forge World stuff, tanks, all those kind of bizarre or unique vehicles, or a powerlifter sentinel, or drop sentinel, or there's actually Chimera trailers. They did 4 of them. They're so rare and I am dying to get my hands on them. I'm hunting them down. Yeah, nobody has them. Nobody has them spare. No one has them lying around. They're totally pointless thing, but I want them. There was a minesweeper attachment for the front of a Lehman Russ. Absolutely no purpose in game. I want it. It's so rare, so hard to get. I just love all those little odds and ends, and I want them all to feature in my Krieg army. Like I said, once I realized that Krieg is going to be my Forge World Imperial Guard regiment, then I decided that I was just going to start collecting as many of these tanks as possible and feeding them into that. I did briefly think about, it's a couple of years ago where I bought kind of 4 or 5 different tanks, and I was kind of going through the process of like, I wonder which regiment will get which tank, because I actually own, apart from Mordians, every single Imperial Guard regiment that's ever existed. So I'm a huge Imperial Guard fan, and like I literally have a full army of each, which obviously led me to that whole idea of which army is going to get which tank. And in the end, I decided that, you know what, I'm going to keep them all together. Forge World tanks go with the Forge World army, so they're all going to get fed into my Krieg, and then I started painting them up. So my favorite ones are the Macarius tanks. So I got a couple of those. I got a pair of those. And then I spent €350 getting the Omega pattern off of eBay, which is a giant plasma cannon one, because I It was awesome. Thinking that I could go and buy the battle cannon one off Forge World tomorrow, but then it got removed from Forge World, so now I'm screwed on that one as well. So I have to hunt down one of those secondhand as well. And then now I'm going through the Malcadors, which I don't like as much as the Macarius. I much prefer the profile of the Macarius, much bigger, much beefier looking tank. Baby Bane Blades, I love them. But I definitely do like the Macarius. And I've so far gotten technically 3 of these because I've been sent the plastic one, which I did for my Cadians, which is a bizarre thing. Once I get a plastic, I can be like, oh, okay, that's going to go into a different regiment. But the resin ones are all going with Krieg. So I have the Infernus and the standard one with the battle cannon, which means there's 2 other versions of that I also need to try and get my hands on to bolster this. And there is just something about kind of the wacky design of things. There's also a little bit of the, you know, when you deploy your guard army, it's so cool to show something that's like not commonly seen. Like, have you ever played against an infernal tank? An Infernus tank? Have you ever seen one pushed across a tabletop, had a big flame template placed out in front of you, heard the whoosh of Prometheum and watched a bunch of your dudes die? I've never seen it. I've known this tank has existed for years, but I've never seen one on a tabletop or seen one being used. So I think it would be a shame if these tanks weren't finished, weren't kind of put in display or featured on top of in games or in cabinets or something like that. So I'm going to push forward with me and my kind of collecting needs. I'm going to keep kind of plodding through and getting these awesome tanks done. If there's any odd or bizarre things from Forge World that you've always wanted, I'd love to hear about them. I'd love to know if there's any nuanced things out there that I've never even heard of, because like I've been in this hobby now for kind of 20 something years. As far as I can remember, the Minesweeper and the trailers haven't been around since before I started kind of into the hobby or whatever. So that goes to show how far back some things like that go. Don't even get me started on things like armor casts. Those are even rarer, but they don't go for a lot of money when they crop up, which is kind of bizarre. But they are rare. So obviously this guy is getting my standard kind of Krieg color scheme, my kind of navy blue, gray blue scheme. Obviously I'm using an airbrush. I know I don't commonly use an airbrush, but I decided to break the rule on this one because I painted my Krieg stuff, or started painting my Krieg army well before I ever did a YouTube channel. So therefore, when it came to doing videos on the channel and I was doing some more stuff to add in, I didn't want them to look different or odd, so I wanted to do them exactly the same. So I basically just did that, copy the same scheme, pull that across, and continued swelling the ranks of my Krieg army. I know Forge World has a little bit of a sour taste in a lot of people's mouths, and I understand all of those complaints entirely. This tank did not fit together particularly well. There are gaps everywhere. There's mold slippages. It's definitely a premium price for not a premium product. Back in the day, it definitely was a premium product. Back in the day when we were surrounded by metal miniatures and suddenly you get a dragon and resin and suddenly it would go together. It felt like a luxury. But nowadays, with the swelling of the ranks of plastic, and plastic just being so perfectly detailed, everything fits together great, everything looks amazing, the resin stuff has felt kind of less and less worth it as time goes on. And maybe the FOMO aspect of things plays into my want and need. I think I've been referred to as a hobby hipster sometimes, which is the need to have things that other people don't have, which I can't really dispute. I definitely like having odd things in my collection that other people don't have. Some people to gawk at. I like an army being a spectacle. I don't want people to walk up and see, you know, 2 10-man tactical squads and a Rhino and a Terminator. No one's impressed by that, I don't think. Especially not with my kind of paint jobs. Mediocre hobbies for a reason. So the only way that I can make it interesting for people to come along and watch is to have interesting pieces in my collection. It's obviously now onto the transfer stage. Transfers are such a huge part of my hobby, especially my Astra Militarum hobby. So this one is Justice Eteria, which is the name I've decided to give this Prometheum tank, and the idea being that this thing does kind of give justice where needed. Whenever there's a particularly kind of dug in enemy entrenchment or formation, or, you know, some guys are causing some havoc somewhere and they need that embankment to be destroyed or that pillbox to be burnt out, they send forward Justice, and it obviously unleashes quite a large torrent of flame to burn out the heretics, the enemies, the mutants. And as you can see, I tend to go massively overboard with transfers, but I think it just plays into it more and more. I think it looks like it belongs. It's really good. Some dangers and some hazardous chevrons for the Promethean tank being dragged behind the tank, which I think is only suitable and apt. I give the designation of this tank as 112. And as you can see, I've put 112 on top as well. I do this for pretty much all of my tanks. The idea behind it is, aerial reconnaissance, flying over and needing to know troop movements and activity. They can easily look down and see which tanks are where, which I think is pretty cool. So the lead belcher stage is also really nice. Obviously, we've gone through a couple of different airbrush stages. Gone through gray, blue, shade, and then back to the same blue. And then we do a lead belcher silver dry brush, and this thing just catches all the edges, all the details, all those chips and stuff like that, and just makes everything pop. Anyone who avoids dry brush, especially when they're doing stuff like tanks, I will never understand. You get a light silver dry brush across the hull of a tank or a vehicle or some power armor, and it's just going to catch all those edges and make it look fantastic. I'm going to show you guys just the side of this tank now. As you can see, I just did a couple of airbrushes so far, added transfers, and now I'm going to dry brush silver, and I'm going to show you what the side of this tank looks like. I mean, I think it looks like I've put quite a lot of effort into this, and I have not. I really haven't. No stage took longer than, I don't know, 20 seconds, 25 seconds, maybe. Because we're already dry brushing silver across the hull, we can very easily go in and heavily dry brush all the tracks as well. Get that done. It's another super quick and easy and effective way of getting tracks done, because nobody enjoys painting tracks on this. So like I said, my armor for my Kriegs, I think it stands over 30 pieces of armor so far. And I only have one regiment of infantry done so far. I have a second all plastic regiment to get built and painted. I must do that sometime very soon. I'm actually just dreading building it. The fun of building has been taken out of me for plastic miniatures being really complicated. And the idea of building the 65 Kriegsmen that I've got in plastic to construct is just killing me. I know it's going to take so much time. But you guys have been honestly hounding me for my Krieg showcase for I don't know how long now. I did it one originally, kind of when the channel first started, and the Krieg army is a lot smaller, and you guys loved it. And ever since then, every time I've done a single Krieg thing, you've been like, can I get an update on the army, how it's going, what size? There's dozens and dozens and hundreds of comments out there asking for it. So I'm going to do my best to kind of plow forward and get more pieces done. I've gotten 3 or 4 tanks done in the last couple of months as well. Some kind of bigger ones, the big Bane hammer. Wait a minute, which Bane blade has the big plasma cannon on it? Whatever. But that has some quite rare upgrades for the Krieg army included in that as well. So if you want to check out that video, link that below as well. That was a really fun one. And another beast to see on the tabletop done. I just love them. Something about Krieg tanks. In fact, it's just Astra Militarum tanks in general. They add so much flavor to an Imperial Guard army. Although I'm not one for entire tank armies. I love a good platoon or two supporting the infantry. I like to see a well-balanced Guard army on the tabletop. Going in now with a bit of stippling with just a bit of sponge, a bit of case foam with some black paint, just adding a couple of chips in odd places. I like going over transfers with this, helping it blend in a little bit more. Making it look less like a sticker and more like, it was paint that was put on this tank quite a while ago, and now it's starting to wear off and chip and get damaged along with the tank itself. Very quick and easy step, but it's really quite cool. Adding the weathering powder now. Obviously, I've donned my gloves because weathering powder is pure pigment, so it is a pain in the backside to get off your surface when you're working. It will stain everything and be a nightmare. But I just apply with a brush. I go in all the nooks and crannies and stuff. This is a stage where I've been given out to quite a few times on my channel because some people dislike this stage. They like the tank looking more clean. But I like, the World War I aesthetic. I like trench warfare. These guys trundling across no man's land. Nothing is going to be clean. I also imagine the amount of artillery barrages and shells landing all around them and the dust plumes flying up and settling onto the tanks. So these guys, all of my tanks are all quite heavily weathered with pigment. I put it around all the tracks in all the nooks and crannies, everywhere where dust and debris would build up on a tank. I like to spend a little bit of time and build it up. I love how it looks. I would love to know if you guys like it, or once again, are there a bunch of people out there being like, you had a nice tank, then you ruined it. I like to hear both sides of the argument. For me, it's just, I just like it. I think it adds a pop of color. I think I try and add chevrons to the majority of my tanks, but I couldn't find any on this, any kind of suitable place to put it. I know people are thinking to put it on the Promethean barrel at the back, but I think that just makes it look like a giant target, so I didn't want to do that. So here it is with the pigment freshly applied. As you can see, I'm still wearing my gloves because I hadn't sprayed it yet. This is it after I've sprayed varnish, which will hold in all of the pigment. Keep it in one place. Also darkens it down, makes it look not as kind of crazy. I will also show you the trailer now that I also sprayed with varnish, although something happened and it fell off the bloody spray board in the garden and fell and broke loads and chipped and scratched, and I was going it happens. We play with war dollies. Everybody handles them, mauls them. Things fall off tables. Things fall over. It's fine. Glued all the pieces back in. Broke out some black paint and touched up all of the bits that were chipped or damaged. As you can see, that bit on the back is actually a lump taken out of it, unfortunately. Paint some black paint in on top of it. No problem whatsoever. Can't cry over spilt war dollies. And it adds to the effect. It's all chipping. It's all weathering. It's, if I had dropped I don't know, an Eldar tank, that might be a big deal. Imperial Guard tank? No, it took a glancing hit from some light shells, caused a little bit of damage. Someone was aiming for the Prometheum tank, hoping to cause a cascade and explosion, but they didn't manage to get through, so it's fine. We can play it off with a nice story. I tend to go back in with a little bit of silver and just re-go over the tracks just to re-add that kind of scuffing and chipping. This thing does kind of grind along, so I don't want it to be completely muddy and dirty and stuff like that. And also, while I have the silver, I kind of touched back up the trailer anywhere where I painted that black to cover up the damage. I touched that up as well. And then this is the almost finished tank. Like I said, I haven't decided on what the sponsored weapons are going to be, so I'll paint those up really quick when I do decide. And then also I have to paint a tank commander to set at the top of that. I'm wondering, should I have him holding a flamer, or is that a little bit too on the nose? Let me know what you guys think in the comments below as well. Here is the finished piece. I'm so happy with it. It's so nice to have it finally done. I got this thing 7 or 8 months ago now, and it's nice to have it finally kind of finished. And now I'm going to just crack on with the next one and the next one until they're all done. So I wonder what should be next. Okay guys, here we are. I'm standing a little bit more upright. I can fit a little bit better on the table. This is of course the Macarius in Furnace. It is one of the most bizarre 40k tanks out there because all it is a giant flamer strapped to a tank. It's the only one that has an adorable little trailer which carries around its Prometheum, which I think is quite a clever place to keep your Prometheum. You definitely don't want it inside the tank. If you take a direct hit, you're going to burst into a fireball. Perhaps the crew have a slight chance of survival if this tank takes a direct hit, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. I still haven't decided what these sponsored weapons are going to be, so I just have to paint up some heavy bolters or some las cannons or something and glue them in. And I haven't also made the tank commander. I'm actually short on a couple of different tank commanders, so I'm gonna have to go through and get the kind of 4 or 5 of them done and ready to rock and roll, just so they're all kind of matching each other. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope you're excited to see my entire Krieg showcase sometime in the very near future. Like I said, there's a couple of weeks of painting still to go, and I would like to kind of power through and get it done soon, so I can kind of put a pin in the Krieg for right now, or at least until I get more stuff for it. You know what I'm like. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like. Make sure you ask me any questions you want in the comments below. I'll get back to everybody. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on this showcase or any and all future uploads. And yeah, if you're interested, check out the Patreon below. Thank you guys so much for sticking around to the end of the video. I'll see you in the next one.